In this video, I'm going to show you how to do a chain conversion on a Harley Davison Sportster. I'm currently turning my Sportster into an off-road bike, and for that I did the chain conversion as one of the first steps of the project. There are a few things that I learned along the way, so I thought I'd make your life a little bit easier and give you a step-by-step tutorial. For this conversion, I went with this sprocket set from TC Bros. In the front, I'm running a 23 teeth, and in the rear, I'm running a 48 teeth sprocket. That's basically the same gearing ratio like the stock belt setup. For now, I'm running that, and I might experiment with it in the future. The only thing that you need to pay attention to is that the sprockets actually match the parts that you're running. So if you run a different rear wheel, for example, like I do, definitely make sure that it fits the hub, and in the front that it fits the transmission. Maybe you need to give them a call so you can mix and match. But once that is dialed in, then the next thing is the chain. For the chain, there are two main factors that are important. So the chain actually fits. You want 120 links, and then you also want a 530 chain. The chain that I went with is a 530 ZXW from Arcade Chain, which is a high quality, high strength X-ring chain that is perfect for a torquey engine like the Sportster. And then I got a few miscellaneous things from the Rusty Butcher, the chain slider so that the chain doesn't dig into your swing arm, and then the chain adjuster plates for the back. Later on in this project, we need to have the rear wheel of the Sportster off the ground. So if you don't have anything yet, get a cheap lift like this off Amazon. I'm going to link it down below. It works great. The only thing is that with the underside of the Sportster, it is a little bit wobbly if you don't have any brackets or wooden pieces. I first used wood, and then later on I 3D printed my own brackets, which made it a lot more stable, but nonetheless, it always works. As the first step, we need to make some room so that we can access everything later on. So that means that we have to take off the exhaust and also the brake pedal. Once all of that is done, you can already go ahead and unscrew the two screws that hold the rear brake master cylinder in place. Once the brake master cylinder is off, you can take a zip tie and just zip tie it to the push rod so it's secure and out of the way. Now we have full access to the cover. To get that off, you need to loosen this nut, and then there are three smaller screws that hold it in place. One is at the bottom, one is on the left, and one is on the right side. All of these screws have different lengths, so it can make sense to make a little cardboard template so you know which one goes where, but I'm also going to tell you later. So now we can go ahead and tackle the sprocket. The first thing that you see is that it's secured in place with a locking plate, so you can take out the two screws that hold that in place. And when it comes to loosening the big nut, there are a few things that we need to keep in mind. The first one is that your transmission has to be in neutral, just double check that. And then the most important one is that this is a left-hand thread. So right clockwise means loose, just keep that in mind. And then lastly, it's good to know that this nut gets secured with red Loctite, so the high strength one. So it does take quite a bit of force to get it loose. The best way how you can do it is to use an impact wrench with a 1/7/8 inch socket. And when I did this, I was actually quite surprised by how long it took the impact wrench to get the nut loose. Just remember, right means loose. Now before we take the belt and the pulley off, let's quickly get rid of the top belt guard. It's held in place by two screws, one in the front, and then the rear one is the same one that goes through the bottom of the shock. You can take that out and leave it out because that way we can get rid of the belt later on. With the guard off, we can go ahead and take the rear wheel out. For that, you need to first take out the cotter pin out of the axle, then loosen the 24mm axle nuts. Then you want to completely unscrew the axle adjuster so you're able to then push the rear wheel all the way forward, which allows you to slide the belt off the rear pulley. Once that is done, you can take out the axle, which will have spaces on it. So make sure that you remember which one goes where, and then you have the rear wheel out. On my bike, I have two different size axle spaces, and this is how they're located. Just double check your manual if you're unsure which one goes where. Now, before we go ahead and install the new sprocket, you can take off the front pulley, the old belt, and while we're at it, let's also get rid of the lower belt guard. Now it's time for the rear wheel. Depending on whether you want to keep your rear wheel or if you are going with a new one, you have to take off the old pulley or not. If you keep your rear wheel, just unscrew all of the screws off the pulley and then try to get it off by hand. If it's stuck as mine is, you can use a rubber hammer as a lever and then pry it off that way. If you're going with a new rear wheel like I am, you don't have to do that. But whatever wheel you choose, the process will be the same. Something to note here is, since the new sprocket is thinner than the old pulley, I just had to figure out that the old screws, the one from the belt sprocket, they don't fit with this hub and the chain sprocket. So I went to the hardware store, got the right ones. These are 7/16 cross-threaded, 1.5 inch long. So let's install those. We need a little bit of red Loctite, the high strength stuff, and then we can put those in. What I didn't know at this point is that when you want to apply Loctite to a blind hole, you actually need to drop a few drops into the hole and don't apply it to the thread of the screw. The difference here is that when you apply it to the thread on the screw, it actually gets pushed up the thread while you screw the screw in, and you won't have any Loctite on the threads in the hole. If you put it in the hole, the Loctite still gets pushed up, but thereby actually covers all of the thread in the hole and does a job. With that being said, now we can go ahead and properly tighten these screws in a star pattern. And to get the accurate torque specs for your model, please refer to your own manual. On my setup, I went with 50 foot-pounds. With the sprocket on the hub, we can now go ahead and reinstall the wheel. Push the axle in from the right side, make sure that it actually goes through the axle adjusters and also that the spacers are in the right positions. Now it's time for the front sprocket, and even though this goes on both ways, you will notice that it only works with the flat side facing outwards. If you install it the other way around, the teeth won't clear this thread right here. Before test fitting the chain, I installed this chain slider on the top side of the swing arm. This one is from the Rusty Butcher. I'm going to link it down below, but you can also find other options out there. Now the next step is to test fit the chain. First things first, I'm going to clean it off the grease that is already on here. I'm just going to spray it and let it soak in the drivetrain cleaner from Makov. And then after the 1 minute, it's time to rinse it off. I've got a clean chain back, so now we can test fit it on the bike, mark where we need to cut it, and then install it. And when you do that, make sure that the axle is not all the way forward, but within the front third of the axle adjusters, so you have enough room to adjust the chain slack. And then just find the spot where the links line up properly and mark the link where you need to separate the chain. Heavy duty chains like this one often come with a rivet style master link that requires a special tool to install them. Before I had this one, which is just a very basic one of Amazon. It's super tiny, it's super flimsy, and it's just annoying to work with because whenever you tighten it, it kind of like twists. So for this project, I finally went ahead and upgraded this tool and got a nicer version of it, which made breaking the chain and also reinstalling the master link super easy. I'm gonna link it down below for you in case you want to check it out. It has a lot of safety features installed, which the cheap ones don't, and it's a lot nicer to work with. I was super impressed with how easy the new tool was. But with that being said, you can still do everything with the cheap tool. I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit, tell you what to look out for when you use a cheap tool, and then I'm gonna show you the process with the proper tool. Breaking the chain just means that you need to grind off the rivet heads, and then you can push it through with a punch. When you install the new master link, you have to be a lot more careful. In the first step, you want to press on the plate, and when you do that, just take the tool off every quarter turn of the wrench and measure the master link and then compare it to a different link on the chain and just see how far you still need to press it on. The same you have to do when doing the rivet. For that, also take it off every quarter turn, measure the rivet, and then most chain manufacturer should specify the desired size of the rivet once it's fully open. So you have to compare it against that. With that being said, let me now show you the process with a proper tool. The first step is still to break the chain where we marked it. To make it easier on the tool, I still took the rivet heads off with a flat disc, but then instead of hammering it out, I used the tool. For that, you get this very long pin. You just secure the tool on the chain, and then you use a 14mm wrench to push the pin out of the chain. That separates your chain. And then the next step is that you want to press the plate of your master link onto the chain. For that, we need to put the shortened chain back on the bike, and then you should have a little package of grease with your chain, which you want to apply to the pins of the master link, and then also on the O or X rings, depending on which one you have. You want to put one on each pin before you push the master link through, and then the other two go on from the front. Now it's time to press on the master link plate, and for that you get this little piece, and you can use it for rivet style master links or clip style master links. You just have to switch this little pin to the opposite side. And here you get the first safety feature of this tool, and that is this little cutout in this plate. So once you have this main part aligned with the plate that you want to press onto your master link, you tighten the main bolt, and then once it's far enough on there, the two pins will push against the wall inside the cutout, and that secures that the master link plates have the perfect distance so the link doesn't bind. So this was very, very nice to use because it just takes the guesswork out of it, and when measuring with a digital caliper, it actually comes very close to all of the other links. And then you have these little pins that you put in for the riveting process. So for this, you also want to align the tool and then tighten the bolt to squeeze the rivet open. As I said, this one stops automatically. With a cheap one, you just have to measure multiple times during the process. Once that's done, just double check the dimensions with your chain's instructions, and that's the chain installed. Now, the next step is to align the rear wheel so it's not crooked like this. And from there on, we can set the chain slack. I wrote an email to TC Bros asking for the recommended chain slack, and they said I should start out with 3/4 of an inch. So let's get that dialed in. For the rear wheel alignment, you basically just use a piece of welding rod, and then there's a hole in the swing arm. So you bend the welding rod just like this, and then you stick it in here, and then you check on the other side, and that's how you align it. Kind of DIY, but if it works. To adjust the chain slack, you want to put the bike on the side stand and measure in between the sprockets how much you can push the chain upwards. If it's too much like here, use the axle adjusters in equal turns on both sides to get it to 3/4 of an inch. Next, we can go ahead and tighten the axle. If you put a rag between the chain and the sprocket like this, it keeps the rear wheel in place so you can easily tighten everything properly. Again, make sure to check your manual for the right torque spec. On my bike, it's 60 foot-pounds. And then as a last step, install a new cotter pin. All right, now it's time to install the big nut on the transmission sprocket. And this is the part of the project where I struggled with the most, but I also learned a few things, so I hope I can make your life a little bit easier. Again, make sure that your transmission is in neutral, and then you can go ahead and apply a few drops of the red high-strength Loctite on the threads of the nut. Now we need to tighten it to an initial 50 foot-pounds, and this is where my struggles began. The first problem that I ran into was that I kept spinning the rear wheel. I tried to put wood under it, whatever, nothing worked. It was so frustrating that at some point I invested the time to 3D print my own version of the official Harley Davison tool. If you want to use it, I'm going to link it down below. But there are different ways that you can also achieve the same thing, because after I posted the first episode of the Off-Road Sportster build, I got a few super nice comments suggesting different things. The main one that people suggested was to use zip ties to zip tie the rod of the brake master cylinder and engage the rear brake by that. I feel like my zip tie might have been too small, so if you use a bigger zip tie, it could work. The best thing is if you get someone to help you, just put everything back on the cover, have a little bit of leverage. But there's also another way that I've seen recently that does this job even if you're on your own, and that is if you get a primary drive locking tool and place it in between the chain and the sprocket. I've seen that in a different video, so it definitely works, and it's actually quite inexpensive. The second problem that I ran into was that I didn't know at the point that most torque wrenches only can read in one direction, and since this is a left-hand thread, it's the opposite, so my torque wrench never gave me a click. Oh. Is it the torque wrench? What you can do here if you run into the same problem is either get a digital torque adapter or a beam style torque wrench. Both work in both directions, are relatively inexpensive and also pretty accurate. So that way you can actually torque this nut down properly, which is actually quite important because in the next step you're supposed to tighten the big nut another 30 to 40 degrees until the locking plate fits over it. And here it's important that you don't loosen the big nut to make the locking plate fit. Once everything is on, you can go ahead and install the 2 smaller screws that hold the locking plate in place. It's not specified to use blue Loctite in the manual, but I feel like it never really hurts, especially on these bikes. Just again, make sure to apply it into the hole and not on the screw like I did. And then we can go ahead and properly torque them down. On my bike, it's 8 foot-pounds. Now you have the hardest part done, and we can go ahead and reinstall all of the parts that we took off in the beginning. Let's start with the 3 small screws of the sprocket cover. The longest one goes on the right, the medium one goes on the left, and the shortest one goes in the hole at the bottom. All of these get 100 inch-pounds on my bike, so not much. Then you can reinstall the rear brake master cylinder. These 2 screws get 170 inch-pounds on my bike. Then I put this nut back on and also reinstalled and secured the pins with new cotter pins before putting the exhaust back on. Lastly, I had to reinstall the brake pedal, and then it was done. I hope this video was helpful to you and that it makes your life a little bit easier than mine was. Everything will be linked down below. If you want to follow the off-road Sportster build, I'm going to link you the full playlist right here. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I see you in the next one.